Is it afternoon? It is, isn't it? Yeah, afternoon, chaps. So I'm going to talk to you about something that's going to be quite emotional and a little bit different. So I'm going to tell you my life story, and I don't like telling it. I've done this once before at the IET. It was much different because I stood up and told them a few things that all of you think, but maybe some people don't get the chance to say. This has been tailored just to talk to you about my career path, because it's been quite an eclectic one. And I call it an unexpected journey, one, because I'm a bit of a nerd, and two, I never expected to be standing here or have the jobs I've had or currently have. But it's kind of part of the message. As you can see, I work on railways. Start your journey starts where you are now. Where you'll end up, not one of you will be able to predict, trust me, because I couldn't predict I'd be doing what I'm doing. So before we get into it, obviously I'm Paul Meenan. I've got some letters after my name. They mean something to me. My foreman taught me, never get letters after your name unless they mean something to you. And they do for me, because I've had to work hard for them. Where am I from? Well, does anybody know where these two people are from? Leslie Phillips and Adele? Tottenham. The greatest place in the world. Tottenham. The most diverse community in the UK. I grew up there. It was a brilliant place to grow up. Simple as that. It was a very diverse and inclusive community. My family. I'm 5 of 10. Massive family, Irish family. That's me on the right. Good looking chap. That's my absolute lunatic father. He was a steelwork foreman. He had no fear. He generally didn't give a damn. And then that's my granddad. I've never met him. He fought in World War One. He went to fight for his family from a mountain in the Northern Ireland to fight another man's war, basically. And I've got a lot of respect for him, because that was World War One in them days. It was just a different world. My dad, he gave me my work ethic. Other than that, that's about all he gave me. With most people from single parent families, because my mum walked out when I was 3 months old, told me I'd never achieve anything. And I used my rage and anger to prove him wrong. I know it sounds horrible, doesn't it? But it was my coping mechanism. I went to school, Grange Hill Montage here. There's me, skinny, with the mop top, inherited clothes from my brothers and sisters before me. Tommy Moore in Wood Green, and that's my mates. Angelo the Portugueser, English Mike, Italian Giuseppe, and Ghanaian George. And we had a great time at school. I loved school. School for me was the most fun I've ever had in my life, and if I could get a time machine, I'd go back. Now, when we left school in my days, we all left with something called a record of achievement, right? That record of achievement I'm holding in that photo contains nothing, because I left school with no GCSEs. When I was 15, I was stabbed, I was mugged, I was stabbed in the back. I sat in my exams, crying my eyes out, with no help, no counselling, no support, no nothing. I was an average student at best, but I loved drama and theatre. So, I did drama and theatre. Why? Because there were some lovely ladies there, and I was a young man. Why not? But yeah, so I did drama. It was the one thing I actually left school with a certificate saying, yeah, he's good at drama. I hung around with some really good lads, and we got into doing theatre lighting. So as we grew up together, I was doing all the LX, the board controls, rigging the lights, and I loved lighting. And I thought, do you know what? I'm going to do this one day. But I ended up becoming an electrician before doing lighting, and I stayed because I liked the money. So yeah, and I met my missus at school. So me and my missus have been together 24 years. I've known her since she was 12. So we've been together a long time. She didn't go out of me until the very end of school. I asked her every single year until she eventually went, "You're all right, leave me alone." There you go, 24 years later. And when I left school, I did as much voluntary work as I could. So that was a Mount View Theatre School, where I got to operate boards, and this was in the summertime, whatever I could to go and get experience. Literally stand, knock on the door. "Excuse me, you got any jobs? Running, tea making, whatever, do it." So I did that for a summer, and I was quite proud of that, and luckily I've gone through my records and I've got some pictures. Now, leaving school, when I left school, I cried because I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea who I was or what I wanted to be. All I knew is I wanted to get out away from my dad. And I thought, I know, I'm going to do theatre lighting, but before I do theatre lighting, I'm going to go and get an apprenticeship. How the hell do I get an apprenticeship? So, where do you get a start from? Well, you go to the pub. So that was my pub, the Jolly Anglers. I had so much fun in there, I can never tell you because we're filming. Honestly, it was so much fun. So Jolly Anglers in Wood Green, great pub to go to. Spent a lot of time in there, but the one thing that they really did help me with was that. They had a Yellow Pages and a phone. Mobile phones are out, but it was about £4.50 a minute, so that was not happening. And what they did was they gave me the Yellow Pages, and I sat there And I rung every single electrical company in the Yellow Pages, every single one. And eventually, I then started sending out some letters because they said, send me a CV. Okay, I'll send you a CV. Doesn't really have anything on it, other than a few little bits and bobs, but they wanted the application of the CV. Didn't matter that I didn't have the experience. They wanted me to do the work to show I was committed to doing the work. And I had to walk around, knocking doors, factories. You know, I had part-time jobs in Argos, Coca-Cola, Schweppes, working nights, lifting and fetching, whatever I could do to earn money, because I was dating my missus and I needed to take her out, show her a good time. You know what it's like, lads. But yeah, so there were some of the challenges we had. There was me on a ladder, health and safety in them days, my God. PPE was pretty new when I first started my apprenticeship. But when I was an apprentice, I found out a few key things. That when I was an apprentice, I worked for an Irish electrical contractor. I had no human rights, I had low wages, I worked long hours because the foreman lived down the road. My first year was making tea and fetching and carrying, and I had to take the banter. Now you all know, go and get a long weight, go and get a bucket to catch volt drop. You will get absolutely reamed, abused, bantered. You will get all sorts of pranks taken out upon you when you're on sites. It just happens as part of the trade of learning, of growing, of taking the abuse. Growing as a man, you have to learn to be able to identify what's banter, what's not banter, move on, grow from it, and it helps you grow your social skills as well. So there was me on a ladder, railway depot, just trying to fit in. There's some really bad pictures of me. That's asbestos pipes with some old red and black cabling. Yeah, there's a hard hat though to protect me. PPE just works, doesn't it? And a bloke down there just working away, you know. Give the apprentice the rubbish jobs. That was generally the rule. But God, I learned from the rubbish jobs. Big stuff. We did super huge big stuff there. We've got massive buzzbar chambers. I'll tell you where that was. That's actually Excel and Docklands. So I'm quite pleased. I wired all the power distribution there and all the lighting on the roof. I wired the whole lot. I was also captain of the football team. Show you that in a second. I learned how to crimp big stuff, obviously. It's underneath Waterloo Station. You know, it's a vaulted arch. How do you form a unistrut framework for panels? You have to learn how to set out. Setting out is a skill. It's using your eye, your wits, your mind. Understand the equipment you've got to install. I was wiring on live stations as well, and that was when PPE was going a bit the way it is now. Getting tied up with stuff and just general abuse. And there's me and Martin, who's a spark I did my apprenticeship with, and that's us on the roof of Excel when it was brand new. And we played football out there. It was huge. Note in the background, anyone see the Docklands there? Because there's basically one building right in the distance. Now that's completely changed. But we got let up there to have fun and mess around with pyros and get belts off stuff and work live and do all sorts of stuff that we didn't know any better on. But yeah, so it was good fun. But the one thing I learned from my apprenticeship is the lads. Wherever you're working, the lads, even if you're with an electrician's mate or a labourer, the lads will get you through. When you're there on a Friday night and you're working through stuff. These guys were absolute lunatics, all Essex boys. Mickey the Chest and Slater the Plater. So these were trade nicknames. I knew their real names, but it took me about 12 months to actually learn their real names. It was that was the sites you walked onto. Everybody had a nickname. This is a video here that made me, when I came out of my apprenticeship, obviously I was qualified, and luckily I set myself targets. So my first year I thought, oh wow, that man's installing a fuse board. I wonder if I'll be able to do that in 4 or 5 years time. And by 4 or 5 years time I was running jobs because my confidence had grown, and the way the guys taught me, my first ever armoured cable, you guys are glanding 1.5s, 2.5s. My college lecturer said to me, you'll never gland a cable bigger than a 16 mil. My first armoured was 185 4 core. And I got given the wrong size gland. I got given an S gland. I spent a whole day trying to get it to fit. I went home crying. And then the next day they went, yeah, we're only joking. Here you go, there's the right gland, you little... I learnt a lot. So I come out of my apprenticeship, qualified, not making the mistakes that I'd made. That's what an apprenticeship is good. Even if you don't have a formal apprenticeship, that doesn't matter. When I started my apprenticeship, I worked for a house bashing company for the first year. I don't have any photos of that. And it was a company called EH Finn in Camden. And they did suspended ceilings and domestics. And that first year, it was great because the guy who owned the company did his apprenticeship in World War II. So you'd get all this knowledge imparted to you, and unfortunately after a year he passed away, the company closed. I then went, I'm back in the pub, what do I do? So I got the Yellow Pages back out, I rung up everybody, and there was all these agencies in there. So I rung one up and I said, I've got a year's electrical experience, what do I do? And they said, go in as a mate. I said, what, mate? I don't know what a mate is, what's a mate? No idea. So just go to a railway depot as a mate. And within 6 weeks, the boss said, come and finish your apprenticeship with us. So I then re-signed up, took a pay cut, and then spent the next 3.5 years getting absolutely battered. But by the end of it, I was running jobs for that company. But by the end of my apprenticeship, I wanted to learn more because I was seeing stuff that I couldn't explain, and hopefully this video will work. Basically what it is this gate here has arcing, visible sparks from power flowing through it, because obviously it's a public gate, and it was arcing across the padlock. And I used to think, wow, I'm seeing all these weird things that I weren't taught at college. What's going on? And then I realised there was a far bigger picture to see. So I was running jobs. I was young, so the guys were looking down on me straight away. So when we got a delivery, what do you think they do? They go out, dig a hole, bury all the materials. Oh no, nothing to do with me. I got every single sort of thing played on me imaginable. It toughened me up though, because I ended up having to learn how to sack people quite a lot. But at the end of the day, you know, you go to work to earn money, not to muck around to a certain extent. So I was seeing all this stuff, and I thought, I want to become an engineer. My boss said to me, do you want to become an engineer? I said, yeah, fine. So how do you become an engineer? So you guys, you're obviously trained to become electricians, but hopefully once you've become an electrician and become aware of your own competence, you'll want to move on. So whether that's via IET or CIBSE or whatever, you want to get professionally registered. And all that is effectively a benchmark and assessment of the experience you have. Okay, so there's 3 grades you can get: Eng Tech, Eng and C-Eng. I'm a chartered engineer. To become a chartered engineer, if you read the books, it says you need a master's degree. I don't have a master's degree. I don't have a HNC. I have a City and Guilds. That's all I have. But I was able to prove through experience that I had the knowledge to meet that standard, and boy oh boy did they make me jump through hoops. There's lots of paperwork involved. You have to effectively document everything you've ever done in your career. Degree? No, you don't necessarily need a degree. If anyone says to you need a degree, just tell them no. I can achieve anything I want. I don't need necessarily the degree. It's good to have though, by the way. How do I do my day job if I'm going to become an engineer? Because I'm a spark, I'm running jobs, I'm doing stuff. I get letters after my name. Well, yeah, great, but that was when my boss said, don't you dare get any letters unless they mean something. So, and I never forgot that lesson. But it meant more learning, tons more learning. So this is just an example, a little snapshot at the time. Yellow regs, we all know that. I had to learn CDM, I had to learn statutory law, I had to learn railway standards. Tons and tons. I actually had a row on a job with a spark who said you can't do that because the standards are applicable. So I went and met the bloke who owns the standards, 3,200 of them. He gave me them on a CD-ROM. I went to work, printed out everything that I wanted to print out, got a highlighter pen. This is how I learned standards. I went, what does an electrician need to know? I don't need to know all the frivolous stuff. But what would a spark need? So I highlighted all those bits. Before you know it, I'd memorised most of the standards. I knew the number, I knew the title, I knew it existed, I knew the key bits of if you have a scaffolding near a railway, you need to do this with the earthing, you need to do that with the bonding. And I knew it. And I walked into an office and it was like, oh, nobody else knows this, great. So then people started to come to me. And before you know it, I worked for EDF Energy Contracting. I was 24 years old and I was the NICQS. I'd memorised the regs book. I was only 24. And I'm just sitting there going, is it me or is there something wrong? Or I don't quite understand what's going on. And it was because I was so passionate, because people kept attacking me. And I thought, well, I'm not backing down, because my dad was the biggest bully I ever met. You're nothing. So what would I do? I could go and physically hit them, but you're not supposed to do that. So I thought, well, I'll beat them with my knowledge. And that's why I went away and learned what I learned. But you have to become a sponge. Simple as that. Your brain will become a sponge. At some point you'll be stuck on a job and you need to have the right attitude. I need to learn this. I need to overcome it. It will not beat me. And before you know it, you'll realise you're doing something called CPD, Continuous Professional Development. You do it every single time you pick up the regs book. A lot of your employers will turn around and say, oh, you're going to have to do to keep your JRB card 30 hours of CPD. Well, 30 hours of reading the regs book a year, that's CPD. Picking up a manufacturer's instruction manual, learning how all this smart tech works, it's all CPD. It's all CPD. Which then brings you on to self-awareness. So everybody identifies, and this is one thing that made me aware of what knowledge I have and what knowledge I don't. This was taught to me by someone who I respect a lot. Unconscious incompetence. It's the 4 stages of competence, basically. There's unconscious incompetence. You don't know that you don't know how to do something. When we were talking earlier about railways, the overseers, they don't know that they don't know this stuff. Conscious incompetence. You don't know that you know how to do something and it bothers you. I don't know how to do a smart wall. It really bothers me because I do want to learn how to do a smart wall. Conscious competence. You know that you know how to do something and it takes effort. Everything in life does. Nothing comes for free. If you think it comes for free, think again. This trade is a very hard trade, but a very rewarding one. Unconscious competence. You know how to do something and it's second nature. You rocket it. After your 5th or 6th fuse board change, you'll be flying. It becomes second nature. You'll get your knacks, your way of doing stuff, your way of dressing boards, your way of terminating, your way of doing testing. So you'll become consciously competent. I can do a board and I can do it well. Once you get, and by the way, I sit within all 4 of these, depending on the subject matter. And this is why I'm constantly trying to learn and improve myself. Now, one way of doing that is, as you can see, regs. That's our bread and butter, is learn the regs. Every 3 years they're going to get updated. We can't do anything about it. Technology is moving too quickly. So what did I do about it? Now, I said I don't have a degree, and I don't. But the one thing I did do was I paid for my own training. So they're actually copies of some of my City and Guilds. I've got about 16. If there was a City and Guilds and electrical installation, I went and did it as CPD. I may not have used it. I've done PV. I've only used it once, but I went and did it. And these all built up. I went and did courses on emergency lighting, electricity at work regs. I did health and safety training. So I did online studies, Voltimum. Voltimum did great online CPD where you could read stuff and there'd be a test and they'd issue a certificate. I still have those. That's all good learning. And if you actually want to understand, if somebody says to you, oh no, you've got to do a formal course. Well, this document here is published by the IET and they use the T-Waves principle. It's a really weird word, but training, academic, volunteering, self-study, events and work experience. So training can be soft skills, technical courses, e-learning, distance learning, webinars. Academic can be master's degrees. Volunteering, well, I'm volunteering my time here to come today. And I'm learning today from you guys, believe it or not, because there's stuff here I'm seeing that I've never seen before. Self-study, reading the regs books, going to events, seminars, elects for you guys, work experience, volunteering your time. That is the full plethora of CPD you can do. So don't think for 1 minute that what you do doesn't count. Every single working day counts. I mean, I've said to the IET, I can't actually document how much I do because it's constant. So I would just sample pick. Now, for you guys going into industry, I thought I'd just change it up a bit and explain to you how my career has stepped. So within the industry, you get a client, person ordering the work. You have what is known under contracts a tier 1 principal contractor. You also have a tier 2 contractor. You can also have tier 3 specialist subcontractors, but just to make it easy, I've kept it there. So client, I currently work as a client, but what I did do, if I can make this appear, the company I did my apprenticeship with, a company called BFP, they're now called Emeco. I think they're about the 5th biggest electrical contractor in the country. And their ethos is quality first, which is great. I moved on to EDF Energy, because obviously as a Sparks, you're jobbing. You know, I could put dozens of companies here. You will work with loads of companies. I've worked with Morgan Sindall. Why? Because I was getting bullied by a lot of the tier 1 contractors I was working under, and I thought, I need to understand their mindset. Morgan Sindall, they dig holes, they fill it with concrete and steel, they put glass in. I went to work with them and I understood they were piggy in the middle. So I had to make sure that my contractors that I looked after, I was an M&E manager, did what they needed to do. I supported them, but I also interpreted the, you know, bricks and sticks to pipes and wires, basically. And then obviously clients, I've worked for First Group as a consultant, I've worked for TfL, I'm currently with C2C, and they're the people that say, please go and rewire my station. However, if they just say go and rewire my station, you go, in what? If they don't give you a scope, it can cause chaos, which can cause a lot of stress. So I'm trying to work as a client at the moment to ensure that the guys working in and around me are more comfortable, more safer, and also everybody's happy. So that's what I try and do, and I try to encourage you guys, if you don't want to be practicing electricians in the future, work your way through. The industry needs really good, passionate, diligent managers at various levels. So this is the hierarchy of where your career could go. I've actually worked for these companies, and I always wanted to work up to a level so that I could influence and make the decisions. Push your boundaries. Push your boundaries. So I'll show you some pictures. So this is Shepherd's Bush London Underground Station. 29 years old. I got asked to go and speak to a bloke to give him some advice. 4 hours later, I booked half a day off work. He said, do you want the job? And I went, what job? And he said, we've demolished the station. We need to get it fitted out and you've got basically 20 weeks. I started with 18 weeks till opening. I spent £16 million in 18 weeks. I lived at Shepherd's Bush, literally day and night for 18 weeks. I went home twice. But that station opened a day before, early. It opened with a really detailed snag list that the contractor was held to. More importantly, it went into maintenance straight away, which was good. And the guys who were working there were paid a fortune and were very, very happy. So it was good, but it absolutely burnt me out. But what a learning curve for me. You know, rather than wiring up boards, I'm now managing 800 blokes on a site and contracts, and so I'm just expanding my own knowledge. This is the UPS room that we built. This is actually the site being built with all the containment, tight confines, because the civil engineers give you the box, you've got to make it fit. These are the lifts and escalators. I've never done escalators before, so straight away, whoa, huge new world of standards and fit out that you have to learn, so that one, you don't sound like a tool, and you can censor that, and you can also manage it effectively. So it's a great learning curve. That's what it looked like. It was finished, nice, clean, fit, compliant, which is great. This is one of my temporary switch rooms that I designed and built in my career, where we had to provide supply to Crossrail. It was 14 years ago. This was the enabling works to demolish loads of buildings so they could put the portal entrance in West London. Yeah, so we put in temporary site transformers, IP rated boards. Notice the armoured. I love this picture because it's just really, really neat. No cables ever cross over. Everything's labelled up properly with Treflite. Everything's individually metered. It was good. We handed it to the next guys. They were very happy. This is cooling the tube. Again, I'm sitting here going, oh my God, you know, my boss says to me, go and do cooling the tube. What's that then? Oh, it's big tunnel fans. Okay, how do I do that? Well, you're going to commission it. I had to learn about PLCs and ladder logic and software, and I'm literally sitting there just going, oh, brain melt. But I got there, and we got the very first of the cooling the tube fans working in Tottenham, funnily enough. So that's one of the 3 fans that we did. Again, pushing boundaries. This is a project I did that was supposed to be a rewire up in Kingsland, which is in the middle of nowhere, and it's one I'm quite proud of, before and after. It was a station with horrible pink everywhere, and the residents said, we like British Railways, bring it back, so we did. And as you can see from the ticket hall, now I was project managing all this. This is not just electrics now, this is the whole project. I wrote the scope, I project managed it, did everything. You've got ticket machines, it just looks horrible. There you go, that's what it looked like afterwards. The old BR signage back, better clear signage, and the ticket machines and everything else were moved to a better position where people could use them without bumping into each other, and a place for pensioners to sit down as well. So 1,006,000, we did everything. Roofs, ceilings, floors, benches, signage, the lot. Everyone who worked on the job were well looked after, and it was a fun job, really fun job. I got to meet Michael Portillo, who does all the railway programmes. I had to research him before I met him. And then after that, I got put in charge of Blackfriars, which is the biggest station crossing the Thames, about 600 million quid's worth of work, and I was in charge of it. So I was signing the new South Station into use, and I'm standing there looking at sparks I worked with when I was an apprentice, going, all right lads, what's happening here, how's things? And they would tell me what was going wrong. So I was in a position where I could influence it and stop it and make sure it was put right, which was great. It was a great feeling to be able to see if things are going wrong that you can influence it and put it right. So that was me with the chief exec of First Group and the station manager and stuff. Yeah, sorry about this picture. So we also did Finsbury Park, which was a new platform extension and a new platform at Ali Pali. We built that. I was project manager for that. There's me and Jeremy Corbyn. I didn't know him back then, don't hate me. But yeah, so he came and did the opening for us, which was kind of cool. But what it showed me was I was getting entrusted with more and more strategic, high profile projects because they knew I could deliver it, because I cared enough and I didn't want a rubbish job attached to my name. So I did what I needed to do to learn and make sure it was done right. And most of it's common sense, working with people. We're all people at the end of the day, just helping each other along. So I'm going to move on to E5 Origins, because I was at TfL and we had this group of guys. You probably don't even know this actually. This is the real origins of E5 now. So you're the first people outside of the group that know about this. So E5 started when I started at TfL. I was going for my chartership and I was filling in these forms, and that's the form there. It's a UK spec for engineering competence. And when I read it, there was a section here, and this is where it comes from. This is where the name comes from. E5, exercise responsibilities in an ethical manner. How do you do that? So it says, give an example of where you've applied ethical principles. Now, I've been on jobs where people have offered me bribes. I've gone, do one, mate. Seriously, do one. Not having that. Do a proper job. That's what I want. I don't take bungs or bribes. So filling this in, I was sitting there going, hey, what a result. This is the last section of the application. So when people say I want to get professionally registered, I say, well, start at the back and work your way backwards, because E4 is CPD. Well, that's 2 out of 17 straight away. I do CPD all the time. So it was really easy. I worked back and then I got to A, which is the really technical bit of how have you designed and all that sort of stuff. But it helped me. And I sat there and I thought, hang on a minute. I've spent many, many years, and I'm being brutally honest with you now, many years arguing with people older and wiser than me who have got loads of letters after their name. They should know this. Why don't they act in an ethical manner? I've had consultants say some horrendous things that I'll never repeat on camera, but some horrendous things. And I'm thinking, well, if you breach that, you can lose your chartership. So is this maybe an explanation of why sometimes the industries are in trouble? And it made me think. So there was a number of guys around me who were really, really good guys, really ethical, help anybody do anything, just do the hours, do the work. And I just thought to myself, do you know what? We all had a chat over lunch and I said, we should form a little gang where we can raise a profile of this. And we did. And it was originally called Power Club because we were all power engineers and electrical engineers. It was a quirky name. And then one of the guys turned around and he went, no, E5's better, because then they'll ask the question, what's E5? Oh, are you registered? Well, you should know. And then it would then make them go away and read and understand and learn. And I thought, actually, that's quite a good idea. That's actually where it came from. That's the true story, where it came from. It started off with me and a pen. That was the original logo, because basically the lady marketing for TfL said, why don't you just use our logo? Because I was explaining it to her about, I'm envisioning a circle of continuous improvement. She went, just stick E5 on that. So we did. So everyone in TfL were going, oh, what's that? What's that? A blue badge? Oh, it's gorgeous. I want one. I want one. And we were like, well, do you know what it is? No, we'll go away and research it, come back to us. Some did, some didn't. And we found the good ones did. So E5 kind of grew internally within TfL across DLR, London Underground, then went off to Network Rail. And then obviously when I left, I couldn't keep their trademark, even though I don't make money out of it. So we changed it to make it a bit more informative, which is what you see now. And obviously it's grown into the more professional logo, and then our visions and values, which me, Dave, Ryan, have sat down in a pub, lots of pubs, talking about what we want to do with our skills, our knowledge to help the industry improve. We don't want to run the industry, we just want to help it improve, because it has to. In the day, it affects our day jobs. So yeah, so that's basically Engineering Council. And what we do is we say to people, that document there is a statement of ethical principles. I'll show you that in a second. And then what it says in that statement, in this statement, engineering professionals means engineers, technicians, tradespeople, students, apprentices and trainees, everyone here, engaged in engineering, non-engineering, managing, teaching engineering professionals should be made aware. Nobody did. I'm serious. Ever since we've made people aware of this, even the Engineering Council has said it's now a most downloaded document. Everybody looks at it. It's just gone through the roof, which is great, because that's exactly one of the things we wanted people to see. And in that, there's a number of criteria. And what we say is, try and work towards it. Honesty and integrity. I'm probably too honest for my own good. Probably never going to be rich, because I am just quite brutally honest. But it says, engineering professionals have a duty to uphold the highest standard of conduct, open, fair, honest and integral. Act in a reliable and trustworthy manner. Respect confidentiality. Declare conflict of interests. I've seen some of those behaviours not held. Respect for life, law, environment and public good. You know, hold paramount health and safety of others. For me, health and safety isn't a word or a logo on a hi-fi. It's just, come on, common sense stuff. You know, use the PPE when you need, use your skills. Ensure work is lawful and justified. Don't rip people off. Recognise importance of physical and cyber security. Probably a little bit out of what we do on a day-to-day, but accuracy and rigour. You know, duty to acquire and use wisely and understanding knowledge and skills. Act with care. Perform services you're competent in. I am not competent in smart installs, so I'm not going to do it. I'll happily tell people what I'm competent and not competent in. If they want to mock me, fine. I don't care. Keep knowledge and skills up to date. Assist development of engineering. So this is a really good ethos to work towards. One of my favourites is leadership and communication, because right at the bottom it says engineering professionals have a duty to abide by and promote high standards of leadership. They should challenge statements or policies that cause them professional concern. That one line is what has driven knocks on the doors to various industry bodies saying, why are you doing that? Why is the National Occupational Standard like this? Why do you do a 5-week courses? Why is this happening? Because I'm following that. This is not doctoring. This is an aspiration to work towards. But it would make life a lot better if we actually did work towards this, in my opinion, of course. So that drove me on. So to get chartered, one of the guys here on the left, he's the chief engineer for London Underground. Wonderful old boy, really nice bloke. And he said, come to Lux Live and talk about lighting. And this bloke said to me, hello Paul, why are the lights on the railway stations on all the time? And he was so aggressive with me, and I just thought, right you. And I absolutely hammered him. And he was like, oh right, okay, that's just killed that conversation. I was just like, oops. But they invited me back. And literally, they invited me back again and again to talk about lighting. Lighting's one of my favourite subjects to talk about, especially emergency lighting, because it's just like the poor cousin of everything, really. I won an award for Client of the Year because I got up and told the truth. That was when I was in my full-on Sparky Jedi beard mode, by the way. My missus keeps making me cut it off. But I did an emergency lighting in rail, which you'll see on YouTube eventually, where I tell people, you guys want to go into rail, there is no knowledge out there for you to acquire. So I'm going to produce content where if you ever want to get into rail, I'll tell you what permits you need, what tickets you need, what the acronyms are, how you get into rail, and so that you can understand the rail environment before you step foot on it. So that's what I'm going to try and do, and also the technicals of rail, because if I can give my skills in some media, that's great. If it helps you and your family, brilliant. That's what I want to do. I've been a bit controversial on some of the things. I had one bloke from BSI, and he got a bit of a kicking from me over the rigs on a live event. I've been to Northern Ireland, which is where my family are from. I've done regulations training over there for the Irishmen, and that's more about special occasions, farms, all that sort of stuff. That my family are cattle farmers, so that's good old-fashioned stuff. I've done lectures in cinemas. Anyone who asks me to go and do a lecture, I've done lectures for Atkins, major design companies. Quite interesting, the questions I get back, where you think, hang on, these are basics. Sparks know about bonding. You're a designer. You design multi-million-pound installations. Why are you asking me these questions? So for me, it's been an absolute journey of discovery as to where things can possibly go wrong. And I'm going to pretty much leave it there, other than saying one other thing. Anybody who tells you in your career that you can't do something, be nice, be polite, but work a way out of doing it. Everything I've ever been scared of, I've gone and done. When I was in my 20s, I was working nights in the underground. I went and worked for British Gas, doing central heating wiring. I was a field engineer for London. I drove all around London in a British Gas van. I was proud to wear the uniform, and I was absolutely mustard on wiring X-plan, Y-plan, S-plan, M-plans, and all the other plans that are out there. I loved it. I did it for about a year and a half. And I had full confidence in central heating wiring systems. I did it because I was scared. I went and did some railway signalling because I was scared. I wanted to learn it. And if anybody tells you you can't do stuff, find a way of doing it. It's harder in modern society, but hopefully you guys will find ways of achieving what you want to do. But never let anybody bully you. And if you don't know, go away and find out the knowledge for yourself and ram it back in them. That's my advice to you. Well, then that's it. Thank you.